I've never seen the demand for precious metals even remotely close to what I'm seeing right now, ever in 34 years. Not even close, not by a million miles. And I will stick to what I've been saying on your show for the past 2 years. This market will define itself by the inability to source product when the music stops.
Here at Liberty and Finance, we're licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. We are standing by the inventory, ready to make sure you get what you need, even into the wee hours of night and on weekends, because preparedness doesn't stop. Call us 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're always privileged to have this returning guest. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, and he joins us for this weekly market update this Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. Andy, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
It's great to see you again, Donegan. I know you're in preparations to get out of Dodge, so thanks for making time, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, my dear wife and I, after 3 years of unsuccessfully making many trips down to Central Florida looking for a lakeshore home, have instead decided to start out by renting down there so that we can be local buyers rather than remote buyers. We think that'll help and give us a chance to sample the climate and everything at the same time. So, 1 week from today, we'll be neighbors. So there you go.
Congratulations. Looking forward to it.
We've got a lot of things that have been going on in the past week, in addition to the continuing rumbles about dominoes falling in the banking system. There's also been no stoppage of progress on the BRICS Plus coalition that you've been detailing for us, especially over the past year and especially over the last couple of quarters. Just this past week, another very interesting event was televised from Kenya. You alerted me to that and would like you to give you a chance to update all of us on what's going on with the formation of the global pivot away from the dollar by the BRICS Plus nations. Yeah,
well, first and foremost, let's just talk about a couple of other things, and I'll show you a 30-second video that'll, kind of blew my mind. One of the things that I think has not gotten enough attention in the mainstream media, and it's funny, all of a sudden they're talking about the BRICS and they're talking about these alignments as if they're onto something new. And you and I have been discussing this at length for at least 2 years. But I think the things that are not getting enough attention in the mainstream are events like Iran and Iraq, currently in the final stages of the first rail connection between the two states in countries in history. This is a deal brokered, of course, by China. Or how about the fact that China brokered the Iran-Saudi Arabia peace negotiations, where they're now putting embassies in each other's countries. These are Sunni and Shiite facts that have hated each other for years, centuries, and now they are putting their differences behind them in mutual cooperation. And that is exactly what China is doing to undermine the Western hegemony. And they're going into all of these countries and they're building ports and railways and bridges, and they're building refineries and helping build mines, and they're industrializing these countries and giving them the opportunity to embrace a better life, to have a middle class, to become industrialized and realize the things that they haven't been able to do instead of being exploited by the West. And this is all about mutual beneficial agreements. And that is what really is concerning, I think, if you look at this from the Western side of the table, where you have all of the dollar demand that has been fostered by it being the settlement currency for almost all of these transactions. And now these deals are being struck with other currencies. And in particular, when you look at what's happened with Kenya, they just struck a deal with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates to buy oil in Kenyan shillings instead of US dollars. So I think what I'll try to do here is share my screen with you and show you this. This is a speech by the Kenyan president talking about what's going to happen in the next few weeks. I think people need to listen to this very, very intently.
For the people who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks.
That's really what I wanted you to hear. I mean, not only did they strike a deal to sell their oil, or to buy oil rather, from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates in Kenyan shillings and not in dollars. The president is telling their people that something's going to be very different in the next few weeks and to get out of dollars. Now, I don't know what that means, but this is what I have been talking about for a very long time, the global de-dollarization. And it's accelerating. And it's accelerating at a pace that, I think is very concerning when everyone is focused on what's going on here with the banking problems and with the left trying to indict former President Trump. They're missing what is happening, which is a global change where Xi Jinping whispers into the ear of Putin saying, hey, we are at the forefront of 100-year change right here, and we're driving the ship. This was reported by media just the other day, and he means it, and it's happening. This is their one opportunity. And when you see countries like Mexico, our allies, Turkey, our allies, Saudi Arabia, the linchpin of the dollar hegemony, Egypt, all of these countries that we've had great relationships with are now abandoning the West and moving towards a relationship with this growing chorus of countries that seem to be not only doing this to stand up against the West, but also because it represents opportunity, mutual opportunity. And if you look at what China is doing and going into all of these countries, they're not exploiting as much as they are industrializing. And this is a mutually beneficial arrangement. And when I look at my business, I couldn't sleep well at night if I thought everything I was doing was only for the benefit of my company and not for the people who are working with us. What makes me feel good at night, and I think it does you too, is that, yes, you're paying the bills and making a living and leaving a legacy for your children, but you're also helping humanity. And I do believe that. To my soul, I do believe that. And it does make me feel good, and it does allow me to sleep well at night. And that, I'm not saying this is the same motivation that China has, but what I am saying is that this new union, this new growing chorus of countries seems to be rallying around opportunity, so much so that they are willing to let bygones be bygones for centuries-old hatred in a one shot at breaking free of this Western hegemony. And I think this is what people are missing. Now, what the media is missing is what happens when the switch is flipped. And we've talked at length about that, when the dollar gets dumped globally. You can see it. It's like a game of Jenga. For those of you that have ever played Jenga, it's a tower made out of little pieces, and you pull one out at a time when it's your turn, and you try not to let the whole tower tip over. Kenya, which is a little country in and of itself, signing deals with Saudi Arabia and the UAE to bypass dollar settlement in oil is not a big deal until you put it into all of the other little issues that are not big deals that become a big deal when they are put together. And I think that's the piece that I really want people to focus on, is that little by little, the pieces are being pulled out of the Jenga tower until one day, probably on a Sunday night before we wake up, just like Silicon Valley Bank, we woke up to a new reality Monday. We will wake up to a new reality on a Monday morning and find that the world has now forsaken or eliminated the dollar as the sole settlement currency for oil. And when that day happens, it becomes a whole new life in this country, one that I think people will lament and really wish that we hadn't squandered away the opportunities that have been presented to us by being the world reserve currency.
When you talked about the world pivoting away from the hegemony of the dollar, I don't think it's just the hegemony of the dollar. You've pointed out over time that they've been basically preyed upon or abused by the U.S. in many policy ways through that mechanism of the hegemony of the dollar. It reminds me of this scene of from the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson back in, 1976 or whenever that came out, where basically the lunatics finally break out of the asylum and they're heading out. They're free now, because that dysfunctional, corrupt system that had them under their thumb is now no longer. They have their sovereignty. They have their freedom.
And that's the rallying cry. And as Rick Rule said, I heard him give a presentation at one point why he thought perhaps the BRICS wouldn't work. And he used the European euro as an example. All of these cultures with different backgrounds and histories and motivations and ethics, and it didn't work. Well, okay, fine. You could say that in spades with the BRICS, but you then put in commodity backing, which gives everyone equal footing at the table, equal say in the union, and it works. And I think the people, the countries that are involved in this are looking for that moment of freedom, of liberation, of expression that has been muted by the West. So this is the real deal. And I think it would be wise of people to look at the world a little bit differently right now, because just like the president of Kenya says, things are going to be different. Now, he says in a few weeks, I don't know what he knows that we don't know. But what I will tell you is that just like the game of Jenga, it is another piece pulled from the dollar hegemony. You keep pulling pieces like Turkey, like Saudi Arabia, like Mexico just joining formally, applying for the BRICS, like Kenya, like all of these countries that are signing accords and deals and unilateral trade agreements outside the dollar, outside of SWIFT. It's a very, very big deal. And then you add the complete and total dysfunction inside the border. It's only exacerbating and accelerating and reinforcing the motivation of these countries to do what they're doing.
If we could take that discussion not only at the sovereign level, but down to the individual level, I get calls, and I'm sure you do too, every week from concerned clients saying, I want to prepare myself to survive and thrive in the world that is coming. We see that the world is changing rapidly. The last 3 years have been nothing like the previous 100 years, or in some ways, echoing and shadowing. If you listen to people like Wayne Jett, the author of Great Depressions Then and Now, The Fruits of Graft, talking about how the seeds of this have been being laid, ideally since the communist revolution of Russia, and the takeover of the Federal Reserve taking over our banking, and then 33 when Roosevelt got rid of our gold coinage in people's hands, and then in 71 and at 64 when it got taken out of our silver out of our coinage. You see this progression of events of taking away options of the ordinary people and pulling those options up into the control of the elite of the pyramid. And in the contrast to that, you've seen some brutal dictatorship behavior out of the East, it's true. But you also have seen governments like India and China encouraging their people to own gold. And so it seems like, and now with encouraging these countries, these poor countries like of Africa and everywhere, which have been, frankly, in many ways under the thumb of colonialist powers for 350 years, who just wanted to basically rape those countries of their natural resources and their people and everything like that and leave them impoverished. But now you see kind of this whole flip where the Western financial edifice is like doubling down. We're going to come out with central bank digital currencies. We're going to track your every move. You're going to have no freedom. You're going to own nothing and be happy, according to Klaus Schwab. And then in the East, you see, we want our people to own gold. We want these poor countries to have a place at the table because their commodities make them have a say and that sort of thing. It seems like two completely different worlds and two different world views and two different futures. So I'm looking at it from the question for you is, as the ordinary person living inside the Western system where you're being told you're about to become subject to digital currencies and complete surveillance for the rest of your life, and on the Eastern system where it's like, we're going to have this based on sort of this egalitarian idea of commodities speaking for themselves, real things, real value. Are you seeing that at a personal level as people prepared for their families, as they prepare for their family's future, that we're seeing a stark different reality emerging in the East as far as what the ordinary person is likely to experience as far as sovereignty? Yeah,
it speaks to opportunity and hopefulness and freedom over there. and repression and loss of freedoms and privacy here. It's everything is upside down. And I'll tell you something, in all of my career, I've never seen such anxiety. I feel like it has been showered over me over the last 2 weeks, where people are really terrified. It's one thing to speak of problems in the stock and the bond market and the real estate market. It's another thing to talk about 5,000 banks, regional banks, which represent 70% of all the small business loans in this country, and small businesses representing 40% of GDP forever. It's one thing for that to happen, and another thing for these banks to be on the chopping block, a fuse to be lit underneath the safety of what we consider to be non-speculative. To put our money in the bank is what we've been taught to do since we were little kids with a piggy bank. Put it in there, it's safe, and it's not speculating, it's not investing, it's safe. And now all of a sudden that whole thing is thrown upside down and being forced into a small group of very large banks, the big commercial banks like JP and Morgan Stanley and Citi. And this is a very big problem, especially in the light of a central bank digital currency. And we've talked about Lael Brainerd before, and Lael Brainerd, who is the architect in many respects of this whole ideology, a modern monetary theorist whose main premise is the abolishment of the commercial banking system. Well, you throw everyone into the commercial banks and get rid of the 5,000 regional banks, and now you have everyone in a mousetrap. And if you decide to roll out a central bank digital currency, and worse yet, if these commercial banks fail and everyone is inside the system, you come in and you issue a new central bank digital currency to the rescue. Now, I'm not saying that this is what the plan is, but Lael Brainerd first was at the Treasury, then she was second in charge at the Federal Reserve, and now she's the head of Biden's Economic Advisory Committee. And her whole theory is modern monetary theory, abolishment of the commercial banks, and direct payments to and from the central bank. Well, what better way to accomplish that than to scare everyone out of the regional banks? And this is going to create a really, really rocky road for a while. And I think, you're hearing people say that within 2 years, there'll only be 6 banks left. Now, I don't know that to be true, but if you think about it, and you're a farmer or own a small business or whatever it may be, I'm thinking about this as someone who banks with a bank that isn't a massive bank, for my own business, for my own personal finances. Like, do you need to move to JP Morgan? Do you need to move to Wells Fargo? These are banks that, you're just a number. You don't have the personal relationship that you've always had with the bank who's looked out for you, who's extended lines of credit for you, who's done things for you because of this relationship. And now you're going to, if you're not connected to the good old boys group, you're going to have to beg for scraps. Now, I'm being a little bit facetious here and a little dramatic, but it is true. These small banks have given loans to companies, startups, and small businesses because of relationships. And these relationships will be discarded, and you'll just be another number. This is happening. And what it leads to is very frightening. Does it lead to the central bank digital currency? Does it lead to everyone piled into the commercial banks and then they fail? Is that by design? And then you blow up the whole system when interest rates spike to the moon and banks fail, and then you issue a new central bank digital currency. It's the reset. Is that part of the plan? I don't know, but I will tell you that if that was your ultimate goal, the first step would be to get everyone out of what amounts to almost 5,000 regional banks and get them into the perfect mousetrap, a handful of giant banks, and who are at the behest of the government. So I don't know. It's scary times, Dunnigan, and this is exactly the kind of thing that will only accelerate the de-dollarization across the globe. They see what we are doing and how counterintuitive many of the things that we are doing actually are, which all speak to the evisceration of the value of the dollar in the treasury market, and the ramifications that have are not good.
One more thing to underscore what you just said about those very small club of too big to fail banks being at the behest of the government is we've had Ted Butler and others on our channel over time outlining and identifying specific either criminal activities that were ignored by the regulators, or where it could no longer be ignored because it was just too obvious, were basically punished with some small fish getting a slap on the wrist or whatever, and big fish being left untouched, and the business practices in many cases continuing. So there's been specific criminal penalties brought against these, certainly criminal charges laid against these people, and then also criminal penalties assessed as well. So against these largest banks now people are saying, well, I guess that's who I have to trust now because that's the only that's the only game left in town.
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone wanted to invest in the regional banks because they thought they would be safer. And now everyone is moving out of the regional banks because the big banks are supposedly safer. Yet you look at the derivative position of the big 4 or 5 banks and they're horrifically frightening. So is the plan to herd everyone into these banks and then let the derivative time bomb blow up those banks? There's your great reset. I don't know. Really don't. But it would be logical if that was the way to do it, to issue a CBDC, which the Bank of International Settlements told us everyone needs to have by 2025. Is this their plan? Is this what Lael Brainerd meant by the abolishment of the commercial banks? Well, what does that really mean? How does it play out? I don't know. But I do know that if you are fully invested in dollars and this stuff goes down, you're destined to go broke. And I also will tell you that I've never seen the demand for precious metals even remotely close to what I'm seeing right now, ever in 34 years. Not even close, not by a million miles. And I will stick to what I've been saying on your show for the past 2 years. This market will define itself by the inability to source product when the music stops. And I mean that 100%. Take from that what you will. If you want to think I'm talking my book, that's fine. I am through debating it. I will just simply tell you that I've never seen anything like this. And this is with only a little bit of the public waking up. But then you throw into the mix the states that are waking up a lot of people all of a sudden: Missouri, Alaska, Texas, Idaho, Wyoming, Mississippi, Kansas. These states are not only allowing metals to be part of the state treasury, but are allowing metals to be used in all debts, public and private. How long before people wake up to this? And God bless these states and their representatives for standing up to the horrible monetary and fiscal policy that is ruining the value of our dollars. So yeah, I think this is going to get crazier and crazier and crazier in this industry. And I've been begging people to look at this environment as the best we've seen in a long time for availability and premium. And that's disappearing now too. Things are starting to go bye-bye again, and premiums will go higher. If this environment continues, you will see by the third quarter, premiums higher than they were for the last 3 years, and availability much worse than it was for the last 3 years. That would be my prediction.
In addition to this tight banking liquidity crisis and solvency crisis, frankly, and also this tight precious metals availability coming crisis, it's already we're seeing more products out of stock at more dealerships than usual, and it's happening to us in many cases as well. We, I understand, are not able to offer a specific market special this week, but have committed plans to try to catch up on the turnaround times on orders that we are receiving and try to do our very best at personalized and private service for everyone involved. Any words for you or people who are looking to when they might see specials again, because that's been something people have been sorely missing these last 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get one next week. I mean, we've been working 18, 20 hours a day for the last 14 days. And that's no joke. I mean, that's for real. At least I have, and my staff has. We have 9 people shipping things out 18 hours a day just to keep up. It's a blessing as a business owner. We've done 15% of what we did last year in the last 2 weeks, and last year was our biggest year ever. And it's just a situation where the demand is overwhelming, and having a special, really, this isn't the time to do it when we're trying just to keep product moving out the door. And I hope people will understand you're going to get your product. We are working as fast as we can. Every company like mine in America has the same issues right now, and we feel blessed that people have trusted us. we're just really working double time to get everything packaged up and shipped out the door. So we are 4, 5, 6 days behind in shipping. Won't be much more than that, but we do appreciate everyone's patience, and it will be delivered. And you are all important to us, and I thank you for the trust, and I appreciate your patience and understanding. And I think anyone who's purchased from other companies out there watching this, I will speak on their behalf. They feel the same way. So your patience and your business and trust is appreciated by all in this industry. And this is the craziest time any of us have ever experienced. So
that being the case, I wanted to, if you would, make one more point related to that. So this level of backlog, logjam, challenge to try to keep up with the demand is happening with only a small, in the gross scale, in the absolute scale, only a small increase. It may be a doubling or a tripling from our standpoint, but that's from a 0.5% to close to 1% of the population. When the cat gets out of the bag and John Q. Public, pulls away from whatever it is, NASCAR or whatever, the Facebook, whatever's got Jane and John Public transfixed right now, and realizes that, oh shoot, our nest egg or the beginning of a nest egg in the bank is no longer safe. What is the potential? What's going to look like for people who didn't take advantage? You've been telling us since November. It's a calm before the storm, guys. Sweet spot here, low premiums and some availability, and now it's Katie bar the door almost, and don't know how we're going to catch up, but we're trying. But that's only with a fraction of the populace waking up. So what do you anticipate it looking like when there's a mass wake up?
Everything that I've been saying, like the little boy who's cried wolf on your show for 2 years, there won't be any product. And if it is, it'll be huge premiums and big delivery delays. Look, it's not just North America. I mean, you got the whole world waking up to inflation and to geopolitical issues and to change and war. And it's not just here. For example, the Royal Canadian Mint just came out and told all of us dealers that they made a big mistake and that they have overcommitted. We received a fraction of the allocation just the other day that we were supposed to receive. They actually went as far to say it will be months before they're able to catch up. The Austrian Mint is now on allocation. So, things are going to way slow down. So you got 2 of the 6 mints that are either on allocation or major backup for weeks or months by their own admission. And then you throw in the U.S. Mint, which is the model of inefficiency. You have 2.5 of the 6 major mints of the world basically running on one cylinder. And what does that mean? Well, you got the UK, the South African Mint, and the Australian Mint. The Australian Mint's had its own problems. Do you see how this can spiral out of control very fast? I sure do. And I don't know what people are waiting for. I mean, I don't. I just, at this point, if you're already seeing cracks in the supply chain on the Royal Canadian Mint and the Austrian Mint, both on allocation, and the Canadian Mint saying we made a mistake where it's going to take us months to catch up, you may have to refund people's money. They said that. And then you throw in the U.S. Mint, who can't produce enough Silver Eagles to, knock themselves out of a wet paper bag. This is becoming a problem, and I hope people understand that. And this is with just a very small fraction of people waking up. Everything I've ever said on your show regarding supply centers around that moment that I see coming. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but that moment is when the people who have laughed at us gold holders, when the financial advisors I play golf with down here in Florida, who only thing they ever say to me about gold is, why hasn't it gone higher in this environment? When they come to me and say, my God, I should have listened to you. How do I get gold to my clients? What can you help me with? Or for myself first? Then that'll be the moment when supply is gone, because it's this hard to keep stuff coming in and out with a 0.5% or 0.75% allocation across the whole financial matrix, as we've talked about many, 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 many times on your show, courtesy of Rick Rule. What happens when it's 10%? Just a lowly 10%. Well, that's a 20-fold increase. It's over. And that's what I hope people understand. So either this is important enough to you to get off the couch and do something about it, or it's not. And if you think you can wait and time this I would say you probably aren't going to. And then you're not going to get a good value, and you're going to have to wait, and you're going to pay huge premiums. And then the Canadian Mint comes out and says, oh, sorry, we overcommitted, and you're only going to get a fraction of what we promised. You may have to refund people's money, or they're going to have to wait months. That's not what you want to hear when you're frightened. So that's what we're facing right now. What happens when it really gets scary? Hopefully it doesn't. Something tells me it's going to. And I don't know how to answer that any more honestly than I just did.
Well, we're grateful for that, for your candid, open, transparent presence here, and informed. You're connected. You're plugged in. People call me and they go, Dunnigan, you know things because you talk to people. And I say, well, I talk to people who talk to people. So anyway, so I know you've got connections all over.
You know, that's part of the deal, because you're well respected in the industry and people trust you, and they will talk to you and they will tell you and you will tell the public, but that doesn't mean the public will act upon it. And they think everyone has ulterior motives. I want people to remember that I've been doing this for over 30 years when nobody wanted gold and silver. Nobody. And I still stuck with it. And I've had one career my whole life, and this is it. And anything I've ever done up until now has not prepared me to understand or accept. I take that back. I do understand and I do accept it, but nothing has prepared me for what I'm seeing right now. I mean, other than having to work ridiculous hours and nonstop customer service and taking orders and talking to my clients and studying and doing these shows to the point where I sleep 4 hours a night at most. And I know in my heart that I can't keep this up forever, but I also know that I have to until I can't. Because this is it. I think this is one of the last trains out. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I don't think I am. I think we're getting close to that moment where if you are not prepared and have not mitigated your exposure to this system, he or she who loses least wins. And that's what I think we're heading.
Well, we're grateful for your presence here. And folks, if you don't want to miss a single episode with Andy, which is every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, then make sure that you go to libertyandfinance.com, put in your name, your email address, click submit, and make sure you confirm on the confirming email. Then you'll get one email in your inbox each day with our latest interview and any specials that do come along in the future. And there will be, we hope. So, Andy, on behalf of all of our viewers, as always, thanks for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Yeah, you're welcome. One last thing before I go. I was presented with our website yesterday, and it's incredible. It really is beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's basically done. It's done. We're putting in the credit card processing right now, and it's really amazing how many credit card companies don't want to do business with metals companies. It's been an experience. And there's still about 5 or 6 states that have sales tax. Hopefully that'll be removed, as many of them have it on their docket in the legislature to remove it. And I know I've told everyone that the website is coming, and I've told everyone how humiliating it's been doing this because of the unforeseen circumstances that have delayed this. But I will tell you, it'll be worth the wait, and it's really nice. So I'm very proud of what it looks like, and hang tight, we're almost there. And for those people who want to see prices and be able to purchase up to a certain amount, it's almost ready. So thanks for sticking with us, and thanks for listening. And again, thanks for having me. I wish you and your wife a very safe and successful move, and I look forward to seeing you down here in Florida before too long and next week on our show.
Sounds good. Thank you, Andy.
But take care.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH, or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.